I'm Nathan Cooke. I graduated from Art Center in 2008 in product design. Before that, I went to Pasadena City College for 2 years to build my portfolio to get into Art Center, which helped with getting a good scholarship to start off with. And even before that, I went to UCI for 2 years before I dropped out when I discovered that you could major in something like industrial design.
Oh, what did you major in user design then?
I was studying film.
What?
So there's definitely some overlap between design and film in so much as, of course, they are both creative endeavors, but mostly the surprising overlap was about storytelling and how important that can be. So also I really appreciate now the critical thinking that it taught me in sort of analyzing and looking at films. And it was honestly something I didn't appreciate as much when I was studying it, but when I had a more tangible output for myself, it helped me see what they were trying to do at UCI. I started teaching actually when I graduated from Art Center in 2008. I went to teach design for engineers at MIT. We were focused on international development, so working with people, like living on less than $2 a day. So I'd go to places like Ghana, Africa, and India to work on projects there with students.
With MIT students?
With MIT students.
Oh, wow. After you graduated Art Center?
After I graduated Art Center. Yeah. Actually, not just MIT students. MIT has a great way that people can cross-enroll, so I met some Harvard people and some Wellesley people and one other school in the area, I forgot who cross-listed with them. I mentioned the Harvard people because actually some of the students I am still friends with today. One of them, she actually changed her career from engineering to design, and she works at Google now in their design team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, while there, I helped to start a company with 6 co-founders that turns human waste into fertilizer in Nairobi, Kenya, which is where I moved to when I was done with MIT. I went to Kenya for about 3 years, from like 2012 to 2015, 2013, 2016, something like that. But I started to miss being around art and design, so I came back to the US, came back to the Los Angeles area, and that's when I got the offer to teach at Art Center and start teaching visual communication there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what was your first class?
It was Viscom 2, which is the dynamic sketching, originally taught by Norm Sherman class. It was one of my favorite classes at Art Center. So it was an honor to be asked to teach that. And I'm still teaching it to this day, and I look forward to teaching it for a long time to come.
Oh, wow. How many classes do you teach in Art Center now?
I probably teach on average about 3 classes a term, mostly Viscom 1 and Viscom 2, but sometimes I'll do other classes. Like did a class where I took students to Kyoto. Kyoto, Japan. We went there and did a study abroad for a little bit, and then came back, did some projects based upon that experience. I taught Product 1, doing some stuff in the entertainment, also Viscom stuff and illustration, again Viscom stuff. I love sketching, so it's great to be able to teach other people how to sketch, but also that it means I get to sketch as part of my homework, or the work that I do for them to do their homework.
Amazing.
Run, I garden, and I volunteer. I like running marathons, and I've probably been doing it for almost 20 years now. Not quite 20 years, almost 20 years. So I like doing long distances. I recently lowered my marathon time enough that I'm considering training for the Olympic trials.
What?
Not for the Olympics, That is a very high bar, but just getting into the trials to say that I ran the Olympic trials.
Wow.
So that's the next 4 years of my life is getting to that qualification time.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Gardening, indoor plants, just a wonderful way to keep your air clean, keep your space fresh. Outdoor plants, as far as like things you can eat. Beets, super easy, super tasty. Composting as a result of that, so not generating that much waste, which I didn't bring it up like as a hobby, but caring about the environment and sort of social impact is definitely something that's important to me. So even in small ways like gardening, if I can do that, it's great. And then that also speaks to volunteering. I help with a nonprofit that connects architects with nonprofits that could use their skill sets. And that's not always designing a building. Sometimes it's just as little as like reorganizing a space so that they can use what they already have more efficiently and more effectively.
Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah.
So you volunteer for a particular like organization?
Yes, Open Architecture Collaborative. It's an international nonprofit, but the local chapter in Los Angeles is Open Architecture Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Mm.
The like more complex answer, it's a creation of manufactured human-made products centered around human needs. The more like simple English way is like, I make things for people. But like then taking it a little higher, but not as complicated as the first definition, is make things for people in terms of what do they need. So it's about asking questions and trying to get to help find out what people need, even if they don't know that they need it. So like the common thing is about not asking people what they want, but telling them what they want. And it's not that negative. It's more finding out, talking to people, and they say, I'm really tired of having to walk up the stairs every day. It'd be great if I had a rocket ship to get to the top of my floors. Well, a rocket ship's kind of expensive, but I hear what you're saying. You want to get upstairs easier. So then someone might come up with the escalator or an elevator, right? It's not the rocket ship that they thought it would be, but it gets the solution to what they need of making it easier to get upstairs. Maybe because you're an older person and you've been running for a long time and your knees are not as strong as they used to be. The long answer is anything. And I say that because since I graduated, I've designed toilets, I've designed menus for restaurants, I've worked on a clean energy project, I've worked on UX, I've done strategy, literally going in to a place and helping them just do a workshop of what they're doing and what their customers want and how they can just change literally their approach. All that is not building anything, it was literally talking to people and sketching stuff on a whiteboard. And my friends have gone on to do things do UX design at Google or some other place like that, to being design directors at JPL.
Wow.
So it varies what someone's going to do, but design gives you the skill sets of looking at a problem and asking the right questions so you can do that. Now, depending where you go, you'll get certain skill sets that help you maybe go into one place or another, such as maybe you might be more interested in footwear. So you can design shoes and go to some place like Nike or Adidas. Or you might be more interested in electronics, so you end up at Logitech or Samsung and you do phones and webcams and things like that. So it'll vary. You should probably end up specializing a little bit, but it's a pretty open field about what you could do. If pretty much everything around you is designed by people.
So do you get to choose that while you're in college?
Absolutely. You can definitely make the choice about where you want to go while you're in college and really focus on it. I've seen people who are super passionate about 3D printing, and so all their projects involve that, and then they get hired by some company that is their kind of focus of how they go about making something. Or of course, again, someone who might be really into soft goods and really wants to get into Under Armour or Nike or someplace like that. But it's also open that you could think you want to start in one place and then you end up somewhere else completely. I've had students who, I really want to get into shoes, all of a sudden they get their first shoe internship, I hate it. I thought I loved shoes, I did it, it's not enjoyable, and now they started their own furniture company because it was important for them to do the thing they thought they loved and realize it's not what they wanted it to be. So now they go and find something else, and school gives them the space to find something else, because sometimes at the same time you can choose some things. You are forced sometimes to do certain things, but in the being forced, you're oh, turns out I like doing furniture, and it's really fun, so I'm going to go with that. I think you get a broad range of training. You're going to learn to sketch. You're going to learn to make models, from 3D models, physical models, to digital models. You research. You'll learn how to do interviews. You'll learn how to present. That's definitely something, as an instructor at Art Center, I think that Art Center is known for, is teaching people how to present. What else? I think one of the biggest things, so those are all skills though, minus maybe the presentation, but that you can start to do on your own. One of the things you get from like going to school is learning to work with other people. And so if you want to learn and work on big projects, you got to work with other people, and school is a great place to do that. Some of those smaller skills, you can build those up on your own, but you're going to get better, faster if you're around others who are learning, because you'll see them make mistakes, and you'll see them have successes, and you will learn from both of them. In the same way that they'll learn from you when you succeed and when you make a mistake. So that's like the benefit of being around others. And then on top of that, again, if you want to work on big problems, whether that's climate change or who's the hero character for this next big billion-dollar movie, all that is a big team. Both of those are big team projects, and you have to be around others to do that.
That is such a great statement. Because a lot of students ask, do I have to go to college, and is it necessary, right? Mm-hmm. It's such a great statement. I like that.
Well, thank you.
No, I really do. It makes sense. You learn how to work as a group in college.
Yeah.
Right? It's such a great, when you think about it, that's true. That is true. Okay.
I knew I wanted to be a teacher somewhere in my time at Art Center. I don't remember when exactly, but part of it was between PCC and Art Center, I had a lot of great teachers, and particularly a lot of great teachers and conversations with teachers after classes, of just hanging out and discussing, how did you get here? What do you do right now? And what are some of the projects you're working on? And that made me realize that some of them would talk about they taught because their teachers were good and they wanted to give back in the way their teachers did. And now they sort of instilled that same thing with me, that I'm teaching because I had great teachers and I want to be a good teacher for other people to learn. And the other reason that some of my instructors said was they want to be good teachers because they want there to be great movies out there, great designs out there, that when they're older, that they have great things that they can use. And so help make the people that are going to help make great things for yourself. They were definitely joking of that being the main purpose, but I definitely feel that same sort of drive of both giving back, but also in giving back, you're also going to be giving to yourself in a certain way of just making generally the world a better place.
Do you have any can you name some teachers that you really like? Oh
yeah, Stan Kong. Sadly doesn't teach at PCC anymore, but still teaches at Art Center. Hydran Mumper Drum, really big on sustainability in product and graphics at Art Center. Fridolin Biesert, product design, and also has started this whole creative strategies. He wrote a book on creative strategies and does a class on it, and it's probably a favorite, in my understanding, of students from multiple majors now. So he originally started doing it with product design, but now definitely people from many different majors come and take that course. It's when you hit a wall, what do you do? And here's a couple strategies to sort of help you out at that moment.
That's cool. Yeah. So I guess out of three, one instructor still teaches in Art Center.
All three of them teach at Art Center.
Three?
All three of them.
Really?
So not only were they my favorite instructors, they're now my coworkers.
That feeling's good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really nice. Oh. Okay, so.
Oh, sorry. I didn't get to know him as well, but I got to put Gary Meyer in there because I see Gary around the campus, and it's just, and Gary, I remember going up to him one time and Gary, thank you so much for everything you're doing. And he was like, thank you. And I don't know if he remembered me or not. Yeah. He had probably so many people who see him and thank him. But for me, it was I had to tell him because yeah. And I talk about wanting to keep teaching my Viscom class. I want to be around Gary's around. Now I haven't worked on Blade Runner or anything like that. It's big. So I have a lot more to go, but I'm going to hang in there. Yes. I'm a marathon runner.
Yes.
Endurance.
Yes, all three.
Being a real person. It feels like a non-answer to the question. It's but I want to know what skill I should do. Should I be a 3D modeler? Should I do sketching? And I say you should be a real person because there are so many people with skills that may not be the most social people. And back to working in teams, it's going to be hard to work in a team if you can't relate to the people around you, if you can't talk to them. You don't have to be best friends with everybody, but you have to be able to do enough that you can get the work done. And being a real person helps with that. What makes you a real person? Having hobbies and having interests outside of what it is you're doing. If you just, again, if that student who thought they loved shoes, went to do an internship and hated it, but then said, no, I love shoes, I'm going to just keep doing it, they're not going to be happy with where their life is taking them. Eventually they'll realize it, but it's great they realize it in school.
Yeah.
And then when you have these other interests, it helps you find new things that you might be interested in. It also helps you realize things that you might apply to your work. I had a student who loves felting, and she would do that. One of her projects was about felting, but then I remember seeing another project later on when she wasn't even in my class, and seeing how the things she knows from felting she applied in how she approached that project. Right. So having these other hobbies and interests, and just again having experiences outside of just shoes or just felting, helps you then take those experiences and apply them in new, interesting ways that are kind of unexpected. So it's hard to be a real person, especially when you're young, coming out of, let's say, high school into college. I'm not saying you're not a real person at that point in time, but a lot of younger people don't have those experiences. I myself, I didn't know that art and design was a thing that you could actually do a career in, which is why I went to UCI for 2 years. So had I, gone out and experienced the world a little bit more, I might have realized that sooner. I'm glad I eventually got there, but I would say that's the toughest thing to try and tell people that they really grasp onto is oh, I should take a gap year. I should travel. I should take up a new hobby, fishing, even though it seems really boring to me. It might actually not be the most boring thing to you.
How about in terms of acquiring skill set? Do you have any recommendation or something must have to become a product designer?
Curiosity and learning to learn. Because skill set, right now, I've been getting questions lately about what 3D program should I use. And it's great in so much as right now I also have the example to tell them there are going to be things that come out after you graduate that you have to learn still. So yes, learn a program now, but learning one program is not going to all of a sudden make you great inside Art Center. I'm learning VR because VR was not a thing when I was a student. Now it is, and there's no class for me to learn it. I mean, there is a class, there are a few classes starting, but as a person outside of Art Center, there's no specific place to go and learn. You have to learn to teach to yourself. Because whether it's a general program you have or a specific thing that some client wants you to do, you have to learn that as fast as possible, as well as possible to get it done for the project. So I know people want to hear, just tell me to learn how to sketch a car, or learn how this program, or learn how to build things out of plaster, or learn how to build things in a 3D printer, but everything is constantly going to change. So yes, learn some things, but learn how to learn the process. That's going to help you a lot more. You learn process, though, by learning some specific things. With that in mind, then you can learn anything, but as long as you're focused on learning it and saying, anything is not everything, anything is, yes, okay, so learn this 3D program. Learn SolidWorks. Learn Autodesk Fusion 360. Just sit there and learn that program so you feel comfortable with it, and then know that it might go away and it's not going to be the standard anymore, and you're going to have to learn something new. And be comfortable that that's going to happen, and expect that that's going to happen. But everyone's still going to sketch. You don't have to render and do realistic stuff, but learning how to sketch is still, I think, a more foundational thing. Again, don't have to be a great sketcher, don't have to compete with every single entertainment designer out there, but there are some skills that are just good to know. So at least on a small level, so you can do it. Sketching, building physical prototypes, and how to talk to people, I would say, is the way I can simplify all of those things. But you're not going to know how much you need to know about them, or sometimes even how little you need to know about them, until you learn a lot about them and realize, well, I learned a lot and I don't need this much anymore.
Right.
But you have to know before you can scale back up what you do. I teach some visual communication foundation classes, mostly learning about things like line quality, proportion, perspective, breaking complex forms down into simple forms so you can draw them very quickly and from multiple views. Foundation, so that you can take that and to your entertainment design class and draw a tank or a helmet or a character from any angle. So that you can quickly do side views and sketch and do multiple iterations of that person from a side view before spending 10 hours on the final rendering of that design. So that's mostly what I do. And within all that stuff, we do lots of observational sketching, because learning to sketch from observation, two things come from there. One, as an instructor, I can see the thing you're trying to draw. I can tell you what you're missing when you're doing that, or how you're making it harder for yourself, or how you can do it smarter for yourself. And two, as a student, you build up your visual library so you feel more comfortable with sketching, and then you can start to sketch the things that are in your head that I cannot give you any corrections on because I cannot see in students' heads yet. Looking forward to kind of bringing some product design to Kazone and starting to do some classes to help students get into places like Art Center or RISD or other design or CCA, other design schools in design, not just entertainment. I love entertainment. I actually wanted to be an entertainment designer at first. But I think helping people with product design can help even entertainment designers, again, back to how to look at problems and solve them. I love teaching. I want this knowledge to get out to more people. And not everyone is based in the Los Angeles area. So this is a way to allow more people to learn some of the foundations of sketching. Hopefully, help them realize where they want to take their sketching, whether that's to illustration, to entertainment, to product design, or maybe even that they don't like sketching but they want to do film, but then they can still use some of that sketching for, like, say, storyboarding or something like that. But mostly, I love teaching. I want to be available to more people, to have access in different places.
Nice. And what makes your online lecture different from many other courses that are out there?
I feel like a lot of the demos when I see online are lots of people who are really talented in sketching, but not necessarily have the experience that I do in teaching. So while they may have like more professional experience in working at a place, most of my work has been in teaching or in freelancing or in starting my own company. So they have more professional experience in place. I think I have a lot of experience of like how to start people and get them going. So I can help with making it more accessible to more people, whether you're just picking up sketching again for the first, second, maybe even third time, or you're just starting off for the first time. And whether young or old, trying to break it down and make it simpler for people. Make it simpler for people, and then you can just like hopefully feel like you can give it a try. Sometimes, again, it can be a little rough looking at someone do something really complex and then like get lost in like, I want to do that, versus keep it simple and focus on some of the basics rather than some of the more advanced things that are great but do take a lot of time to do.
Cool. So what can we expect from your lecture?
You can expect to do a lot of work and go through a lot of paper. But if you do that work, if you go through that paper, you will get better. Practice, like pretty much I can preemptively answer any question anyone's going to ask about how they get better. It's about practice. Now, the specific practice might change from time to time, and you have to have some intention behind your practice. But like with sketching, like practice is the only way to do it. I love using the analogy of sports, right? You play basketball, you play baseball, you play football, ice skate. You want to get better at hitting your free throws? What do? You go to the free throw line, you keep throwing a bunch of free throws until it just gets natural, that shot after shot goes in the hoop. You want to get better at catching. In baseball, you practice running up and down, back and forth across the field to catch the ball no matter where it's going to go. You want to get better at ice skating and doing a triple Lutz or something. You go and you practice. Maybe you start with some singles. As it gets more comfortable with singles, then you can push it and get that double. Everything's practice. So again, if you put in the work, if you practice, you're going to get better. I'm going to help take you along the way and help you hopefully get better faster, so you can try like some specific techniques and hopefully error correct you in some times like in some common mistakes that people make when they're just starting out.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.